Let's go right out to the great, tremendous Pittsburgh Steelers fan and retired Leader Post sports reporter Murray McCormick. And Murray, you ended your career, your journalism career, with a bang. You were on fire. And I say that because you went to that football foodies segment when you were on the road to the Rough Riders. Your food photography was rivaled the Bear, if I can say that, if anybody's watching the Bear. I mean, it was great food photography.
It was.
And your descriptions of the food. And sadly, Sharky, when I would read Murray's columns on the football, I was drawn to the food comments almost more than the football. Like, how did you get that idea, Murray?
There was a fan that once sent me a letter and said he wondered what I did on the road. And I said, I kind of eat, sleep, and work. That's all I do. He said, well, maybe people be interested in having some idea of what your life is like on the road. I says, well, the thing I do most consistently is I can talk about food and take pictures of food. So I just kind of started to do that. Mm-hmm. And I think people maybe remember this. I never went to your high-end restaurants. It was always kind of a place where you could go and normal people would go and have fun. And I remember one year when we were on a long road trip when the Riders were they played in Toronto and Ottawa. And a woman, I was talking about all my football foodie stuff. And this woman says, I've been keeping track of every place you've gone because we're going to Ottawa for the Grey Cup. And I want to make sure I hit all these restaurants that you've been eating at. And unfortunately, I still have the football foodie physique. More than my interest in food. So that's one of the things. But it was a lot of fun. I know, Don, you keep bringing it up. I just thought it was so good. It was
it was
original.
Good. Yeah, it was just something to do, have some fun, let people know that it wasn't all work and a little bit of play and a few calories along the way. So I guess.
Actually, I just want to tell Sharky this really quickly before he asks you the next question. I was at Dakota Dunes golfing with Murray last year, along with former broadcaster Kevin Wall and Dale Isaac. And Murray made a bunker shot. I thought I was watching the PGA. It was unbelievable. It went forever. I think it was in an inch of the hole. He was way back. Anyway, go ahead. What's your next question?
For a triple bogey? Murr, was that for a triple?
I don't think I made the putt.
Yeah. It was a hell of a golf shot, I'll tell you that.
And it's interesting that Don brought up stuff you did before and the way you wrote, because I always loved reading your columns and whatever you wrote about, whether it was curling or football or whatever the case might be. But as I asked this question, the Riders this year, 4-0, some guys are trying to find flaws in the 4-0 record. Your thoughts on where they're at 4-0 as a sports writer?
Well, if I could, I've been at 4-0 a few times with the Riders through my career, and they've had some good fast starts. Remember last year were they 4-0, Don? You want to help me out with that?
Yes, they were.
Yeah.
Yep. And then they lost how many in a row? 7 in a row?
Well, of
6
course,
of
when
7,
Trevor Harris got injured, and then when he came back, they went back to winning, sort of thing. They won a few of them.
I have to admit, as a sports writer, a former sports writer, I'm excited about this Rider team. I loved that game last week. I thought it was. I didn't expect Harris to be hurt just 3 games into the season. I knew he would take a while, but I kind of like what they've done. They rest him because they know it's a bye week and he can come back and play this season. Mm-hmm. But I think they have everything you need to be a good, solid contender. Take on Winnipeg. They play Winnipeg, I think, to be every other week. Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see how that goes. But I'm really kind of excited about this. I'm kind of excited about Harris. Ouellette blew me away. I loved how he ran last week. He hits those holes with those steps, and he's going through there. Devon Campbell, we all know Jamal Mazzoli isn't the greatest quarterback. He threw that pass, and Devon Campbell just broke on it. And there's nobody in the CFL that's going to catch Devon Campbell. We all know he's the fastest guy.
Nobody.
And that was just, here it is now. And it was just, I remember writing about him when he went down to the States and talking to him at his speed. And the guys in the States just were blown away by his speed. Look at that speed. It's almost like his legs are a blur.
Well, you know what, Murray? I mean, I was right there where I sit. He went right by me. And what was crazy about Devon Campbell, he was jogging down the field, and yet he was going super fast. Like, you look at him, he's not even going full out. That's how fast the dude is.
Yeah.
That's crazy speed.
He's got crazy speed. And I really, some people are looking for flaws. Some guys to me doesn't like the Riders' defense. And I said, like, what's not to like about their defense? Their secondary is probably the best in the league. Roland Milligan is just an out stud. I love watching him play. Junior Thurman. Sorry, I'm not as adept at saying names as I used to be, but I look at the linebackers, I look at the defensive line. That's a team that's full marks for being 4-0, and they can probably go a little longer. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do against Winnipeg. I think Winnipeg is going to be a real challenge. And as I said earlier, fortunately, we'll get to see them play Winnipeg a whole bunch of times, or I think it's 5 times, 3 times, and it'll be a lot of rivalry stuff. And I'm still going to miss I haven't gone to the Labor Day games because I've been busy with other things, but I'm still going to miss not being at the stadium for the Labor Day games. I just love the Labor Day Classic and all the hype and stuff around it.
If you were to go back and write something now from your previous experience, what would you be writing about now if you were to tell a story about the Riders?
Isn't that a good question? I probably would have been more supportive and more hyped up on Darian Durant than I think we were. I think we were a little more critical of him with the way he left and stuff. I think we could have done a better job of seeing what a great player was and what he meant to that franchise. And maybe I could have. Not that I didn't write some nice pieces about Darian Durant. I still remember when he wrote "We Turned 30." It's still one of my all-time favorite Riders stories, and talking about him being 30 years old and things like that. So probably more supportive. I don't even think supportive, because I'm not supposed to be supportive. Just more about Darian Durant, and maybe made more of a deal about how important he was to this franchise.
And he's a good broadcaster too. Yeah. And back to this. Go ahead.
Go. Well,
back to sort of sports journalism. I remember one time, because I thought I'd talk to you about this briefly along with Sharky. I remember one time I had the idea to do a Rider player report card. I also befriended players who I then criticized in the report card. And I had some really upset people, and I was going to be a pancake if some of these linemen ever found where I lived. But you did it and I never did it again. You did it for a number of years. So how did you make out on doing a player report card? Because you did it a number of years, and I did it once, and that was it.
I think it's not. I didn't care what the players thought, but that doesn't sound right. I did care, but I just felt part of my job was to be objective. I can tell you a funny story about my first report card. We're flying with the Riders to Calgary to play a playoff game, and I'm sitting there in the middle in this outside seat, and the offensive line coach is reading the report card, and it was I ripped the offensive line pretty hard, saying, and I could just see him looking at me the whole time. I think it was Mike Shepard, might have been. And I'm going, am I going to get off this plane alive? But I always felt, I had to do it. I had to put myself in being objective and say stuff. I also have to admit, I had Rob Vanstone with me too, and he wasn't going to let me get away with saying something that was a little too flowery. He was a great editor. He was always kind of willing to do that. Show your opinion. Don't be afraid. People want to know what you think about the team. And that's what I thought about the team. Because that's kind of how I approached the report card. I still remember the first time. I always made sure I worked the next day after the day the report card was published. Because I wanted if the players want to come up and say something to me, I want to make sure they're available, that I can take that. So I was, and I don't think I really had a player that ever, other than that offensive line coach sitting beside me on the plane. I never really had a lot of people saying things to me about the report cards. I didn't find it. And through most of my time, other than the Corey Chamberlain years, they're pretty good. So the report cards are,
people read them for sure.
Yeah, when they're struggling like 2015, the report card, Brendan Tammon didn't disagree with what I had to say about him in 15 when they started off 0-11, I think it was. Something like that.
0-8 for sure. 0-8 for sure. Ammo. Yeah, it was not a good start to the season, no doubt about it.
Yeah. And not a good end for Brendan and Tammon and Corey Chamberlain.
No, it wasn't. Hey, Murray, you've you've covered more sports probably than anybody in the Saskatchewan area, and by that I mean more variety of sports, right? Whether it was minor sports, minor baseball, university, the Riders, the Pats, everything.
Curling.
And curling, one of the best coverage of curling that anybody got in the Leader Post. As you go back and think about it, favorite all-time events and stories and places, because that's the stuff we want to hear, what you remember the best, and good and bad.
Well, as I earlier said, the Labor Day game was always the best. For me, it used to be, as you kind of find it hard to believe, and it makes it hard to be a sports writer, it gets to be a grind. And you get to that point of the football season in September, and so it starts to mean something. There's a big crowds. I would always go to Mosaic Stadium early, and then you just sort of put it in. So I always excited. I loved covering big curling events. Give me the Briars and the Scotties and World Championships. They just made it. So even at Moose Jaw, when the Worlds were there recently, just being there and stuff. So that was a big one. I was very fortunate. I kind of like to tell this story. I remember once I had to go cover a synchronized swimming meet at the Lawson, and the coach set me up with six-year-old girls to interview about synchronized swimming, and they all had this little chat with me. Oh, you read sports? Oh, my dad reads the sports section. Oh yeah, I kind of like sports. Oh yeah, and I'm sitting there with these, and I still look back on that, and I know I have many highlights. I've written great cups. I still remember sitting at the Lawson with these 6 little girls, all trying to tell me their little stories and stuff, and it was such a highlight. But I don't know to say what it was a bad thing. Right now I can't remember. I was so fortunate. I know people who were listening to me. I never did anything else. I wrote sports my entire life, wrote sports or copy edited sports for 43 years. Like I look back even more. Maybe that's, if I can say, more appreciative of the opportunities I had, what Bob Hughes gave me, what Greg Drinnan did, what Rob Vanstone and Ian Hamilton did, and Daryl Davis and all these, mention all these names in the Leader Post. We were awesome. We were a great newspaper. And I look at them now and I go, oh, we're not so good anymore. But Don remembers the good old days when how many stories have been done.
You guys had so many reporters.
Yeah, I'm just thinking how many stories have been done on you in the 72 series and stuff. Don, it would be, and Sharky, I think I might have known you longer than Don, because I think I first met you with the Cougars back in the day.
Yeah. It would have been, back to the U of R days. Yeah,
that's where I remember Sharky at the U of R. I just wanted to switch topics here. We had Al Simpson on the show yesterday, Murray, talking about, of course, possible new baseball facility in Regina. Al, of course, will be a part owner, the majority owner, and Sean Semple later this year for the Regina Red Sox. And the P3 program in Canada is a private-public partnership. It's possible that a new ballpark could be built in the rail yards to revitalize the downtown core of the city here in Regina, which is much needed, and there'd be no burden on the taxpayer, versus we're still paying lots of interest and payments on Mosaic Stadium. And it made so much sense to me. What do you think of that whole thing? I mean, it hasn't really got going yet, but what do you think about, do we need a ballpark, and would you support a P3?
Well, maybe I can throw it at you. I've covered baseball at Curry Field. Remember the Regina Cyclones way back then? So I kind of have a little bit of a background in what happened. The Cyclones was a lot of fun. Only thing about the stadium is I absolutely believe they need a new stadium. I don't give it to Gary Brutzel and Bernie Eyes of what they managed to get people in there to use that stadium, to go there and visit. What they have the other night? Did they say 700 the other night, or 1,000, 13,000?
1,100. Yeah.
1,100. Like, absolutely, we need a new stadium. But unfortunately, in my world, I've not met anybody who said to me, we need a new baseball stadium, other than the people who go to Red Sox games. So I do think Daryl Davis, we all remember him, had a great column recently on, what it could mean for the downtown Regina to have a stadium. So I think we need it, but I don't know. I just don't see the market being strong enough. And that's nothing against what Gary Brutzel, as I said, the guys have done for the Red Sox. That's an absolutely fun night at the ballpark, but I don't know. It just seems to be, and as you and I talked about, what happens when they stick the first shovel in the ground into the railroad yards and they find all the stuff that might be under those tracks. So,
they know it's there already. It's not a case of when they put the shovel in. They've drilled the holes. They know what's down there. They know where the bodies are. I think Jimmy Hoffa's down there. They actually might have found him. I personally think if we're going to be a city that's going to grow and expand, we need to have those facilities and we need to have those things that draw people into our community. And a new in that league, if you look around the ballparks in that league. Oh, yeah. We are at the bottom end of it, and it's about time we caught up. Yeah.
I'm also... go ahead, Murray.
Aren't all the Saskatchewan teams at the bottom of it? Basically, other than based on facilities?
Yeah.
The Alberta teams have all made themselves these beautiful stadiums. You look online, you just say, holy smokes.
Alberta's used the P3 to great effect with three new ballparks in that province. I honestly think build it and they will come. That's my opinion, just like the movie. I mean, that's what's happened. And
I don't think corn will grow there.
Pardon me?
I don't think corn will grow there.
That's a good point. The soil not too fertile. I want to get to the NFL quickly with Murray, though.
Okay.
Because Murray lives and breathes with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He said he was going to travel when he retired. He's done it. He's gone to, one or two Steelers games since you've retired, Murray?
Oh, just the one, but it was a Monday night game against the Browns, and the defense was outstanding, and it was absolutely amazing. I just felt myself so lucky to be there. We're actually, I'll tell you, Don, we were supposed to see Bruce Springsteen, and we're going to see the Yankees and the Pirates, and then the Steelers and the Browns. And just as I was getting ready to leave, Bruce Springsteen announced he had stomach issues, so he canceled his concert. So I hated his guts.
Oh, that is so too bad.
Curtis, you should have had the... Oh, man, you just missed one. Yeah.
The bong effect.
Yeah.
Now the Steelers, they brought in Aaron Rodgers. And I agree with you. You and I talked about it, as we often do at Boston Pizza on Fridays, that, it's not a bad idea at all. Aaron Rodgers is passed. You don't agree? Go ahead, Sharky. You don't?
No, I mean, Murray, I want to hear what you think of this because, like, my grandfather was eligible to play. I don't know why they didn't call him to see if he could swing it, right?
They left themselves without any other choice. They let Wilson go. They let Fields go. They Mason Rudolph, whoever he is, whatever he's done. They have no choice. They have no choice, and I think. So I am sort of, because they put themselves in that position, I am 110% sort of behind, almost cheering for, thinking about Aaron Rodgers. But I don't know. I have a friend of mine.
I think Mike Tomlin can, if he is a little arrogant, Mike Tomlin will knock that out of him, won't he?
Well, I don't think Mike Tomlin can knock it out of him. No.
You don't think so?
No. Go ahead, Murray.
Well, they just traded Minka Fitzpatrick, too, for Jalen Ramsey, who's a great player, but he gets hurt all the time. And I hate to see him coming off an Achilles injury, I think. I'm not one. So there's kind of things, but I just feel I can say we about the Steelers, kind of. We need a quarterback. And Aaron Rodgers is going to be the guy. And I hope he's not nut bar, and I hope he doesn't tear apart the locker room. But I think he's going to be the best opportunity we have to get to the playoffs, and probably the toughest division in the history of organized sports. So,
well, we know one thing: he is a nut bar. Yeah. I have to tell you that, Murray. Number two, but Mike Tomlin is a great leader.
He is.
He's a great leader.
He is. I will say this: in football, generally, there's a good quarterback shortage. Like I don't care which league you're in. You can go high school through to pros. There is a lack of good quarterbacks all over the place. If not, Aaron Rodgers wouldn't have a job.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I don't disagree. Right. But as I said, and this is what I'm going to say, my same themes are going to get me through this season. We didn't have any choice. This is what they did to themselves, and they got to go with Aaron Rodgers. So yay, Aaron Rodgers.
Well, the Steelers had no choice. I agree with Murray McCormick. However, my co-host is not going with this idea. He's saying he's too old.
He's too old. He's going to be a disaster.
With this enormous controversy, we'll end this.
Thanks for the boo, Curtis. Thanks for the boo.
So thanks for everything there, Murray. Appreciate it. SportsCage.
Can I just I
Go ahead.
wanted just 1 second to say I want to send my condolences to Pete Paczko's family. I'm going to try to get through this without being emotional, but he did so much for this community in sports, and I don't think people sometimes a cable show gets kind of hidden and overlooked, but locker talk and everything, him and Mitchell Blair, and I'm so sad. I'm so, we lost a great person and a great guy, and I think we should all sort of take a moment every now and again to think what he meant because Sharky, almost every athlete in this city was interviewed in locker talk at one time or the other from every level, and I think we lost a great guy and lost a good friend, and hope he's resting in peace now because he deserves it.
Nicely done. Thanks, Murray.
Thank you, Murray.
Thank you guys for letting me do that.